Because in essence he's a human being. This is what the Rebbe is saying over here. We're still coming to it in our refreshed session here. That Ayin made Inyan, that the Rav is standing in that Inyan. Now, but this is a reality of his own reality. It's not only his sechel, and therefore, he can draw from that reality directly into the sechel. And so this is the important thing. Shlomo Innocent had captured a point that we said this morning very well, and I mean his notes are excellent, but we have very subtle things that really came out clear. That it's interesting, it's really phenomenal, that the Talmud takes the hashpah from his Rav, not at the level of sechel. Sechel is always debatable. Sechel always leaves the possibility, the open-ended. Is this something that holds true in every situation? Are there any questions? Is it something that you can bet your life on? Or this is true for some under certain circumstances. So we know that the way the Gemara Yisrael is from the Rav and Talmud, the mashpia, makabel, that what the Rav says is absolute. How can a human being say a sechel that's absolute? It's a sechel, something that he understood. He figured out, right? So how can it be absolute? So we explained, because Mamarav, this sechel is actually representing his nefesh. He's drawn directly from the nefesh. The nefesh is absolute. The Rav sechel, this is why we say the Rav sechel is shloi b'erech to that of the Talmud. The Talmud is getting the sechel from sechel, whereas Rav, this sechel represents the reality of his nefesh.
Shlu b'erech?
Huh?
Shlu b'erech?
Not in proximity, incomparable. Not in the same realm. And this is why the Rav needs to be mitzaltem his sechel, to allow the sechel of the Talmud to surface. Because otherwise it's a sechel that has no questions. You can't present something to the Talmud without any boundaries, without any borders. And if it has borders, then there has to be an approach. There could always be debatable because there have been different circumstances. This is what we were discussing before. There's a tshuva, a response from Tzemach Tzedek regarding some question, and someone said, regarding this question, in the name of the Alter Rebbe. So the Machzedek said, my only question is it accurate that the Alter Rebbe said this? Because if the Alter Rebbe said this, then I would not question it at all. Even though my own thinking disagrees with this. But in fact, the Alter Rebbe, if I knew for sure that the Alter Rebbe said it, all debate would cease. Then begins a process to understand why the Alter Rebbe said it, what is the basis, how do I understand it? But the reality of it is unquestionable. Did I say from Tzemach Tzedek? Yeah. Okay, go on. This is the end of my intrusion.
So, yeah, we were just reviewing the notes already from this morning, and then Kiva came with a question at the end about this Inyan of Kiruv. I guess that, how do we end off over there? That the curve retains a connection to its source. I don't recall how it came up exactly this morning. Look at the notes. I don't know if I brought this in the notes either.
Yeah, but this principle we repeated many times. It came through many times on this point. The kav retains, even though it's mitzumtzum, and therefore it doesn't retain the full impact of the etzem on the etzem sechel because it's mitzumtzum, and yet it's bekiruv. Why is it bekiruv?
Right. Attached still to.
It's not attached. After the tzimtzum, it's not attached. But what happens is that in order to draw the kav from the nekuda that remains after the tzimtzum, there has to be what's called choizer v'heir. Choizer v'heir. Choizer v'heir means that even though there was a tzimtzum and the Rav removed his sechel to the point where, as if he never understood anything, as we explained. He's a beginning student. He's a beginning student. He's never understood anything.
I'll be back in 15 minutes. I have a meeting.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back.
He's a beginning student. And yet, he said he can bring back the whole sechel that he had before. Why? Because in essence, he is in that place. Like our motion for this is that every human being is a bar sechel even if he did not practice sechel. In contrast to the man in the gutter. This gives us a sense of what we mean. He's a bar sechel.
Did last year. Yeah. So the mashpia, Ilu lo skill klal, he makes as if he conceals his own sechel from himself.
As if he never understood anything.
And yet at the exact same time, I guess we're going to come to it, Oymed bo'oto inyan, he remains standing within the same...
In that inyan. And this is why he can bring the seichel back.
Sorry, David.
He's, so to speak, like the kav itself.
Excuse me?
In that state, he's, so to speak, like the kav.
You call in conference?
That he's in proximity
Not
to
in
his
the
own
kav.
truth.
Okay.
Not in the kav. The kav is already a gilui. Like in the nakuda.
Yeah, stay on this.
The nakuda that remains after the tzimtzum.
Okay.
There was nothing there. And then he brings back from the source the oil that illuminates this nekuda and creates a kav.
This is a very kind of mysterious relationship between this nekuda, that's the Rishimu, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Rishimu is not something, the way you've described it in the past, the Rishimu is not something that is separate, really, from the Ayin sechel. It's like what's left over.
It's a very
that Ayin.
it's a very constrained, very limited. It's containing the entire Ayin Soif in a nekuda,
You cannot call him.
which is just a Rishi. In our examples, when we learned this last time, whatever, we said that this is in the secular world. This is like the formula. You teach a child the formula for a certain mathematical principle.
So it compacts everything.
It
that's
compacts
behind
the whole structure, but it compacts it in one nekuda.
And what is the impact somehow from this compacted?
Okay, let's take a better, and this is good for us because we're so familiar with it, we're much more familiar with the secular process than in Torah. But nevertheless, we say every day in davening, we say that there are 13 principles of deriving halal adin from the Torah. One of this kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer. So kal v'chomer means kal means something is lighter and something is more strict. So if a certain din applies to something lighter.
Can you put the phone closer to the rabbi, please?
Okay.
I thought I was talking to this guy.
Well, he cannot get into the conference for some reason, but he's on his
Oh,
way.
really?
He's on his way over.
So kal v'chomer, everybody knows what that means, right? How much more so? If this is so this one is for sure. Now this has a very broad ramifications. There's a principle, a very simple principle that applies, that can be identified in a very simple thing. It's a very simple way. If this halacha applies and under these simple circumstances, surely it applies under these circumstances. Let us say there are certain things that are permissible to be done regarding kashrus, regarding Shabbos. The person, if there's a sakona, sakona in halacha means many things. There's sakonas nefoshes. Sakonas nefoshes means that his life is threatened. Chas v'sholom. And then there's sakonas eiver. Sakonas eiver means that he's got a bad infection and he's liable to lose a pinky, a neighbor. That's also called a sakona. So we say if there's only sakonas eiver he's permitted to do such and such, surely if there is sakona nefoshes, for sure you've been permitted to do that. That's called kal v'chomer. But this kal v'chomer in sechel has a very broad ramification. Because the halacha is that under circumstances, let's say sakonas nefoshes, the whole, and there is nothing, everything is mutter. You don't have to prove anything. So therefore, the Kal V'chomer is only a technical way of expressing something which is much greater than that limited statement.
I'm sure I'm getting the point here. The Kal V'chomer is, I don't know.
Okay, 1 second. You're not getting the point because you must have lost the point that we're looking for. I'm explaining that the Neshima, after the Tzimtzum, the Neshima left. The Neshima is a stripped down a statement, consists of 1 point, which encapsulates the entire insight. So I'm giving an example. Kal V'chomer. I give an example. Kal V'chomer. If a pinky is threatened, or one's life is threatened. Do we have that clear?
So the Kal V'chomer is like the Rishima, is like
One
that.
second. Is that
I understand the principle of Kal V'chomer.
okay? You understand the principle? I mean, give me an example. The
Yeah.
difference between an
Aver
aver threatened or a life is threatened.
Yes.
Okay. And this enables us to learn a very plain, simple halacha that if, in the case of the aver being threatened, this is permissible, surely, if in the case of the life threatened, surely this is permissible. Okay. Now this is a strip down of the real sechel. Because when a life is threatened, the halacha is that when life is threatened, one is not never allowed to go to the Rav and ask a shayla. One has to jump in and do what needs to be done. And if he goes to ask a shayla, it's like shefer dom. So this is
Which way does the Kal V'chomer run here?
what?
Which way does the Kal V'chomer work here?
If you can do something to save the Aver, how much more so you can do to save the life?
Right.
If the Aver, then certainly the life.
Right.
Okay.
But this is a technical statement that encapsulates a much deeper principle, much greater oil. But if you want to explain it to a Talmud who doesn't have the bigger oil, you have to explain it to him in these technical terms. I don't see what's so difficult here. It's scratching. You understand?
I'm waiting for you to bring it back to the Nakuda,
To the Nimshal.
You're explaining to us what remains either of the Rav when he withdraws his sechel, or you're explaining to us in Nakuda as it is Lamaila. Is that how you're using the idea that there's a larger sechel, and the stripped down Kal V'chomer is only a usage for the Talmud that cannot grasp the larger sechel.
First, I explained that the Kal V'chomer is a stripped down, is an akuda of a larger sechel. I didn't speak about the larger sechel. I spoke about the technical aspect of the Kal V'chomer.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough. Okay. Now I'm going further. I'm showing how is it only a technical thing? How is it so stripped down? Because if you really think of it, in reality, when it comes to a life threat, we don't need any proofs, and then you're not allowed to go and ask a shara of a shaila. The whole question doesn't even apply.
Oh, yeah. When you see it from a different perspective, there's no need to justify or to have.
No need. It's above
It's above the
justification.
question. There's no question.
It's a different reality.
And this different reality,
A person who goes and asks a question of this nature says in Allah that he's not about sechel.
and this is well, what do you want to tell us about this reality? What are you bringing out with this reality?
That this reality is the way the Rab sees things. But in order to give it to the Talmud, he has to completely remove that reality and then begin to figure it from and remain within the Nakud. Once this Nakud is identified, then he brings back his sechel, and through this Nakuda he follows his whole sechel, and that becomes the kav. It's called choize v'heir.
Again, choiz v'heir, he removes everything, but a point remains.
The point
And
remains.
by virtue of this point, that is the opening, that is the pivot around which the kav then.
And then he goes back to his original seichel, choize v'heir,
Right,
and illuminates this Nakuda.
right. And for the Talmud, somehow that point is valid. Somehow the Talmud's comfortable. Is
For the
fine with
Talmud,
that
this is his point of reference.
It's a common currency. It's a common point, really. The student gets it, and it's true by the mashpia as well.
Well, if the student gets only the Nakuda, he's not getting the seichel that the mashpia is trying to teach him. But through this Nakuda, he gets the whole seichel.
Is there a way, Rabbi Paltiel?
What?
Is there a way that you can give us an example of how this occurred or occurs in a case of your being mashpia to somebody on something? A case study.
Well, I could, but I don't want to lose everybody again. I'd like
I
you to
feel
concentrate
I-
and follow what I'm saying. And if you don't
I'm-
understand
I'm at-
something, immediately stop me. Dealing with someone who feels the pressure of life, who feels the Torah mitzvahs is a pressure. I have to live up to this, and have to do this exactly, and do this exactly. And I don't have the spirit to do this. I'd rather just
Do my thing.
go down and just respond to immediate circumstances. Eat what I see and
Go where I wanna go.
do what I want to do under the circumstances.
Free soul.
So I said, I want you to understand that in principle what we are doing here is celebrating life. Instead of celebrating body, we're celebrating life.
Instead of celebrating body,
Yes. Bodily experience, we celebrate life experience. Life. Okay, this is an encapsulation of the whole principle of the godliness in the world, of Chochmah bin Adas and everything. It's a very minute encapsulation.
Celebrating life is the Rishimu, is the Nakuda.
That's right. Celebrating is in the Kud. Because afterwards, when you begin to open up and say, life, what's life? Life is the godly presence. There is no worldly life. There's no life in world. World and life, they don't make sense together. Life is a godly element. God, we say, Kel Chai, a living God. World is lifeless. per se. Life in the world, this is the godly presence. So if you appreciate just this one from one moment, celebrating the life, you're opened up to being able to be exposed and to be shown the broader, the bigger truth, the bigger reality in this. You can't say, listen, godliness, this is what life is about. That is too far from it. Because the sechel understands only his own experience. But then when you contrast, within you contrast, they say, you have a body and you have a life. Which one is more precious to you? This is something which is generally speaking quite an open answer. And then he's able to draw him into this, into focusing on this. And through that you can open up the whole truth that you were trying to expose him
to. And that, when you do that, that's the chayzer v'heir?
Then you have a chayzer v'heir. Chayzer v'heir is, first you're trying to him, listen, you have life and body. Which one? What is more precious? Once you got him to see life versus body, then you can chayzer v'heir and say, you know what life is? Life is godliness. Life is the godly presence itself. I mean, you can't just jump there, but chayzer v'heir. Because just to be a living body, we said many times, that's insignificant. Right? It's a life that we're celebrating, not a living body. Does that answer your question, Baruch? Does that satisfy your request?
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. I don't know if it satisfies anybody else, but
satisfies
I relate to this. I relate to this a little bit more than Kal v'chomer.
Yeah, satisfies me too. Okay, Baruch.
I think Akiva too. Shlomo as well.
I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
You come on time.
No, I was listening almost from the beginning.
Okay.
I heard the call of Homer.
Okay. So this is what it's about. This is what we learn right now. That first is a tzimtzum, and it reduces the sechel arav to a nakuda, which is like how this nakuda is present, so to speak, on the worldly level.
And when the Rav gives this nakuda of body and life, this is in effect where the Rav has to forget completely, because in his reality, that's not even a distinction that's typhus makom.
That's right. That's exactly right.
He wouldn't think of that by himself if there was no symptom.
That's right. So this chayzer v'heir, the principle that is explaining is that which develops afterwards, that which develops afterwards when the Rav explains the nakuda and draws all the oil back into the nakuda and creates the kav, so to speak, and develops the nakuda, all the details, all the ramifications that come along with it. It is not something that he develops the nakuda. He actually brings back the original oil of the oil elaki.
This is me. Sorry, I don't know how to.
How come I hear it over there?
It's okay. So, like in our situation here, since we already got into this, and this is not far-fetched for our class.
I'm sorry, could you just one sentence back? I missed the.
I'm saying that when the Rav ultimately elaborates on this Nakuda, he's elaborating on this Nakuda from coming back from the perspective of the source of this sechel, rather than on the Nakuda itself. And now let me explain what that means. We ask the question: what is more precious to you, life or your body? Right? So the student says, life is more precious to me. Okay, so he got the nakuda, he catches, of course. Now you go and start developing it. How are you going to develop it? You can develop it in very different ways. You can start saying, of course life is more important. Because without life, the body would disintegrate. How long can the body last without life? So what are you celebrating? Life or body? Hello?
With that example,
Yeah.
it puts the emphasis on the body.
On the body. Life is more important because life sustains the body. So what are you celebrating? So clearly, this is not what the Rav wants to teach you. So therefore, he goes a step further and says, life is more precious than body. He's giving him, first step. Look. With body, for example, you can only know how much this weighs. With life, you can know its feel. Is it smooth, or is it coarse? So you're developing the experience that you have from life. It's smooth, it's coarse, it's tasty, it's sweet, it's sour. This kind of things. These are all experience that you have as a result of life. Again, if this is what the Rav this is what he's going to get out of this, he's not getting at all what the Rav is trying to teach you. Because from the Rav's perspective, the value of life is not because you can experience life. It is life per se. Because life carries a different degree of truth. This is why we have the Chayzer Beheir. It goes back to the source. What makes the life precious? Not because of the experience of life. Not how you experience life through the bodily experience. The preciousness of the life is because it represents the godly spark. This is the eternal spark in your existence.
So these other things that you were saying that you could derive, which are not going in the right direction, this would be if you tried to develop things from the Nakuda itself.
That's right. From the Tzimtzum.
From that Rishimu.
From that Rishimu.
The Rishimu by itself, without the Ayr that's Chayzer Beheir, is not going to produce anything of significance.
That's right. That's right. This is what we pointed out when we learned it a couple of weeks ago. This is what the scientific world did.
So 1 second, when we say that the Rav stands in the Nakuda.
No, he stands in the sechel. He stands in the real truth.
He stands in the truth as what to the Nakuda?
As a source of the whole thing. In other words, to him,
So he
there is
doesn't
one
stand.
second. Let me explain to you. To him, to go and focus on the nakuda and say, "Oh, because you can taste sweetness, that's the value of life," is not even a possibility to go here, because he's focused on eternal truth. So even though he hadn't developed his sechel at all, he doesn't understand anything. But his whole mitzias, his whole reality is, where is the eternal truth?
So it's as if his feet are on the nekuda, but his head is in the neshama
Right.
at this point.
Right. You can put it this way. It's not.
I-
Right. His feet are being held up by his head, not the head by the feet.
But this
Like Avraham Avinu, he's walking around and says, "Yes, balabayis lebirazu." Why does he care about balabayis? He has a biro. Try to understand the world that you're living in. What do you care about the balabayis? We discussed this many times.
What's the expression inside the sefer that it says about the Rav when he comes to when he removes about standing? What's the actual statement in by the Rebbe?
Right here.
It says
Shehu oimed b'zehu inyan. Shehu oimed b'zehu inyan. He stands in this. This is where he is.
what is the Indian? The Indian.
The inyan, this inyan that from where this sechel came from, that's where he is. That's his reality.
So in the example you were just giving us, he never loses the reality that life is the godly presence. Period.
He never loses the reality that the godly presence is the real thing.
So,
Right.
So what does he obscure?
It's the sechel of it. The sichli. But the reality remains the same.
The sechel of it, meaning his conscious. What's meaning?
That's
here?
right,
His
the identification. Where is this present?
He stands in this Indian means he stands in godliness.
He stands in godliness. He's seeking to stands in godliness means that he's seeking to identify the godliness. Why? Like Avraham Avinu was looking for the balabayis. He didn't find the balabayis, so he doesn't know the balabayis. Why is he looking for him? How do you know there is a balabayis? Because a biro without balabayis is not real. He noticed right away there's reality to it.
Can we say that the Indian is reality? Can we say that?
His inyan is the reality.
So we should almost say that he stands in his Indian almost.
Yes. That's right. But zehu inyan. This is his inyan. Then when he develops it in the sechel or something else, that's already developed. But in principle, this is where he is. Even if he loses the sechel, he's not going to lose the principle. Just like we said at a much lower level, we said the human being lying in the gutter, is he no longer a human being? Can you say that when he says he's happy to be in the gutter, in the dirt, he's mamish happy to be in the dirt, like the pig, and he means it? Can you honestly say that this is what happened? It's impossible.
What's the mashpia state is in this topic, but he makes lo hiskil klal. What's accomplished by. Why is it necessary to remove his own sense of where he stands? Remove himself from the sechel where he is. What's
No, you see, this is the thing. You did it right on the note. The sechel is the gil, is the development, the awareness.
and he removes. This he removes.
This he removes.
But again, but why? Why is that constructive? And how?
Because without that, there's no way it can relate to the Talmud.
So he. And then with that removed, he still.
Now he
still
has
comes
found
to
a common ground for him to talk to the Talmud.
And in our example, it was, see, life is superior to the body. He brings that point, for example.
I know it's superior, it's more precious.
And the student can agree on this.
Yes, he has a question to the
Yeah.
student.
And then it can be developed correctly. And
Then
this-
he develops correctly, going back to the source of this.
Yes,
Why is it more precious?
right.
Not because he can enjoy ice cream with it, but because it is more precious.
Yeah, it's interesting. He finds like a mamutza. He finds something that's a common currency.
It's not even a mamutza. It's a stripped down level. You can call it a mamutza.
Right. And the fact that the student agrees to it is almost like he doesn't know what he's getting into. He might have been under the impression, oh, life is more important because my body would not last without life. He might have.
No. Then this student is not fit for any sechel yet.
Oh, so he cannot agree on that basis. He has to agree on a real basis.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
He's asking him is what's more precious, not what's more important.
What's so precious?
What was the original stimulus
Who
question
asked
problem that the Talmud came with?
Well, one second. What?
Who asked of whom?
The Rav asked the Talmud.
Uh-huh.
And that's much more important. It's very important. But then he's back into the world, because without life the body disintegrates. But that's not what he's asking. He's asking, what do you value more? What's more precious? Yes, Boris, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I wanted to go back to the original question the Talmud came with. He came with the problem that he wasn't motivated in life. Everything seemed to him as a burden. Is that right? That was the question?
Yeah.
It seems as though there's a first thing there that I'm trying to see.
That
how
wasn't
did
the
Rav,
question. That was the sense that he got under the circumstances where you grew up with all the pressures. Everybody was constantly criticizing him. He says, "Hey, that's too much. What do I need it for?"
and this is what he's saying to the Rav.
Right.
And from this, that he says this to the Rav asks him this question.
Rav changes his whole perspective, his whole view. This is not what this is all about.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
He shows him that his reality is someplace else.
But the very
But
fact.
there's something that happens there at the beginning, as a result of which the Rav knows, or, as a result of which the Ein Sof of the Rav, in fact, comes down and condenses in this Nakuda. What's
Right.
more precious,
Right, because
right?
yes.
What is
Because
that?
the
What is
Rav,
it?
because the Rav does not want to mislead the Talmud. You see, this is what happens in today's world. The therapist. The therapist tells
What?
you, the therapist.
Yeah.
Don't worry, whatever you do is okay. Whatever you do is okay. It's not okay. You're just throwing him deeper into the hole.
I mean, the very fact that this young man came to the Rav, regardless of perhaps how he starts off in his in what he thinks is important or not important, he's ready to hear something. He's ready to be guided. Hopefully.
Hopefully. It all depends how he got there and so forth.
Yeah.
But the point
okay.
is that when it comes to the Rav, in contrast to the therapist who is just going to make him even more more insensitive, the Rav is going to make him sensitive, or show him how he's sensitive.
The Rav has the, whatever you call it, the impulse, the draw to connect this Talmud with the truth.
Okay,
Is
so
that
this
true?
is what we discussed way back when, because that's the only thing that's real, that's valuable. And that's the reality of the Talmud also. Like we said, the man lying in the gutter, and he says, I'm happy over here, we don't believe him. You have Rahman say him, hey, this is not the reality. All right?